I've been coaching full-time for almost 3 years now. I've coached Iron players, I've coached Challenger players, and everyone in between. Today I'll be talking about what I've learned, what works and what doesn't, why people climb, and why people are hard stuck. I'm going to be breaking up this video into 3 main segments: increasing your peak, reaching your current peak faster, and preventing disasters. Let's start with increasing your peak. So this is basically just improving. The first thing that you need to do to increase your peak is to play the actual game. Queue up, get the reps in. You need time dedicated. You need to put focus in the game of League of Legends to actually improve at this. It doesn't matter how much content or coaching or streaming that you consume. This game is very muscle memory intensive. And from my experience, a lot of people are on board with this concept. It's just easier said than done. So then the question becomes, if you have ranked anxiety, if you're afraid to queue up, what can you do? And again, it's going to be the same answer. You just need to do it. The more that you queue up, the more that you just make it a habit, the less of an obstacle it's going to seem to you. So set yourself a challenge to play the game consistently. It doesn't have to be spamming the game, just 2 to 3 games in a night, and then you're going to build that habit. And then you can start to not rely on feeling perfect, right? Because it's so easy to make excuses that you don't feel good, or you're tired, or this or that. But you're never going to feel 100% as long as you can build up the habit, the discipline of queuing up. It's going to become easier for you. Be curious, play and improve with attention. This is pretty much the opposite of autopiloting. If you're just going through the motions, you're not going to improve, right? You're not going to test out what you know. You're not going to expand your horizons and see what you can and can't get away with. If there is anything that confuses you or makes you feel uncomfortable, go and investigate it. And that's where coaching and content and even reviewing your own games can really help out. If you review your own gameplay, you can fill in the gaps for what was confusing or uncomfortable. And then when you have filled in those gaps and you kind of notice a trend of what you're doing or what you need to do better, then you can use those learning objectives to focus in-game. Anything to battle autopiloting. And then if you do have something in-game to focus on, it can serve as a distraction from narratives and externals that can distract you from your climb, because there are going to be so many of those floating around with a team game, with a MMR-based ranking system. Don't take the bait. Focus on your mentality and your gameplay and yourself. Take control. Be relentless in your pursuit of improvement. Nothing is going to just fall into your lap. In terms of improvement, what you want to do is you want to go through the painful experiences and moments. You make a mistake, you feel pain, and then you overcome it and you reflect on it and you learn from it and you improve for next time. I don't want you guys to just have no emotional attachment at all. I think it's important and powerful to care about the game and to be passionate enough to be annoyed at mistakes. It's just how we use that and overcome it. So don't just turn your head away and say, who cares, this game sucks. Embrace the pain, dive into it, see what you can get out of it, and then be better. I'm going to talk a little bit about improvement mentality now, because I can tell who will and who won't improve with some confidence just from how my students are talking or looking at the game or looking at the improvement journey as a whole. Those who are going to struggle to improve are going to be those that are protecting their ego too much. Those who are practically placing a barrier between yourself and improvement. You don't want to be scared about thinking about the mistake that you made, or about that play that you did and then you got flamed, or making some half-ass excuse about why something went wrong, just so that you're protecting your ego. It's okay to make mistakes. No one else really cares that much about your play and where you are. So just embrace that mistakes are necessary to the improvement process and try to overcome yourself protecting your ego. Those who are too rigid are also going to struggle to improve. Those who are searching for a simple answer to every solution is going to struggle with the game of League of Legends, because it's just such a complex, fluid, adaptive game. And it's not always about knowing the exact 100% right play on paper. Sometimes it's just about choosing the lesser of 2 evils, but quickly and confidently and decisively, and moving on swiftly. It's about moving on from a niche situation that gets you thinking about it for half an hour or an hour and you can't figure out exactly what should happen, when both of those situations are potentially fine and you just have to choose one and move on. I've worked with a lot of perfectionists, and these are the issues that trouble them the most. And then emotional regulation, steadying the ship, managing your highs and your lows. You don't want to just dwell on your successes. So there's a difference between sending your highlight play to 5 different friends in 3 different servers thinking you're the best player in the world and being proud of your performance, but understanding that one play or one game doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Everyone knows that you should manage your lows, right? You don't want to start tilting, you don't want to get in a negative spiral, but your highs are also going to be reflective of your lows. If you allow a play to just hype yourself up so much, you're probably going to feel really down when things go wrong. So it's all about that emotional regulation in the long term. Let's move on to reaching your current peak faster. So this is not necessarily improving, but this is playing towards your limits of what you're currently capable of, finding your peak faster and finding a level of consistency. The number one concept for me for this one is actually discipline. This is fast becoming my most talked about quality in my coaching. If you know what you should be doing, but you're just not doing it, then there's no progress without improving your discipline first. If you don't know what you should be doing, then you're generally going to be learning that through content or coaching or reviewing your own games or getting different perspectives. But I see a lot of the time players and my students, they have an idea of what should be happening, but they just don't really commit themselves. They don't hold themselves to a high standard. They allow themselves to get distracted or to make compensatory plays, or they know what should happen, but then they're not decisive and communicative enough, and then they just kind of go with the flow. But building discipline, holding yourself to a high standard, consistently executing on fundamentals, these all go hand in hand. And the way that you're going to build your discipline, I believe the best way is a combination of holding yourself to a high standard, challenging yourself, not allowing anything other than the best to happen for you, and out of game discipline. There are many ways that you can look to build discipline out of game. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but your diet, your sleep, your exercise, if you are disciplined in those areas, not only do those areas have benefit for you, but they can also build the tool of discipline that you can use in your games. But those three pillars I talk about, diet, sleep, and exercise being the out-of-game pillars, these are all very important to reach your current peak as quickly as possible and to maintain a level of consistency. Be careful what you're putting in your body. Try to exercise regularly. Try to go to bed and wake up at roughly the same time each day if you can. Otherwise, there are some other out-of-game areas that can really help you in this regard. And this is just going to fall under the category of like general well-being. Your relationships, right? Intimate or friendships. If you have them, if they're going well, it's going to help you in your League of Legends journey. If things start to go wrong with League of Legends and you can fall back on these other pillars and you can fall back on friendships and relationships, then it's not going to feel like the end of the world, right? But if League of Legends is just everything in your life, then it's going to be more turbulent, right? The highs are going to feel really good, the lows are going to feel really bad, and that's just going to make it tricky for consistency. Otherwise, you want to be playing solo queue, not duo queue for improvement. I understand that you might want to play duo queue for fun with friends, or you might be playing on an amateur or competitive team, and then you want to play scrims or duo with your ADC or whatever it might be. If you want to play League of Legends to have fun, that's up to you. If you want to play League of Legends to build synergy with other players, that's totally up to you. If you want to improve and become the best player that you can possibly be, then we would want to maximize the amount of solo queue that we play instead. We also want to remove distractions as much as possible, so be careful about playing music that might be too distracting for you. Typically music is fine though. Otherwise, being in Discord calls with friends, that can easily distract you from the task at hand. Having content on your second monitor, like a podcast or other type of content, or even messaging someone on some sort of social media platform. How you want to treat it is that when you are playing League of Legends, you are locked in. You have no time and no spare attention or energy to give to anything else other than trying to engage and committing to the task at hand. And just a bit of an anecdote on that. So if I play more than 3 or 4 games in one sitting, I'm just absolutely exhausted. And if you get to play 5 or more games in one sitting and you don't feel a little bit burnt out, then you're probably not giving as much energy as you could be. Or maybe I just tire easily. Otherwise, just a few miscellaneous points here. You can try to optimize the system a little bit. I don't want to overemphasize this much, but you can look to dodge once a day. If you get off roll or if you really don't like the comp, it's just something like that can become toxic and unhealthy if you're not careful. You can also find a way to warm up. And so what I tried to do is make sure that I'm warmed up in some capacity before I play my first solo queue game, whether that's arena, ARAMs, practice tool, games on a Smurf, whatever the case may be. Moving on to preventing disasters. So what I mean by this is it's so easy to fall back into bad habits or to spiral out of control if you start spamming games or you become really tilted. So ideally, we're preventing that from happening in the first place. No matter how good of a schedule, of a process, of a routine that you've built up, it is fragile. You don't want to take it for granted. You want to put in the necessary precautions. So just a few points for this one. Don't queue up if you're not in control of your emotions. That is a surefire way to start a negative spiral and to lose a lot of games and to start autopiloting, you need to be able to recognize that you are tilted, and that's fine. Just do anything other than queue up solo queue. Also, don't spam the game if you're coming in through the Broken by Concept podcast universe at all. Curtis and Nathan talk about the 3-block process. This is put in place to prevent the negative spiral and to spam tilt games. And the 3-block process is you just play 3 games in one sitting and you review them and then you get off afterwards. So for the most part, quality over quantity is the approach that you want to take, unless you're very new to the game or you're very new to a champion, in which case you would need to emphasize reps a lot more. Otherwise, taking breaks, we're all going to need this at some point or another. If you're feeling burnt out or demotivated, you can take a step back, you can reflect, you can play again once your passion has come around. And that's the power that you have. You can have whatever relationship you want with the game. You can play when you're feeling good and you're locked in and you're passionate about the game, or you can play when you hate everything and everyone around you and you're trying to escape, right? One is probably going to be a little bit more conducive to results and improvement than the other. Removing yourself from toxic ecosystems. So if you have friend groups that circulate bad narratives about the game being unbalanced, this champion's broken, this item's broken, the matchmaking system doesn't work, Reddit threads with the same thing, communities, anything that pushes the narrative that the game is inherently broken or your success is determined by anything other than yourself. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. If you were looking for specific in-game tips to improve your gameplay, all of that will be found through the rest of my content and my coaching that I do offer. Thank you for watching. Please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting, as this really does help my channel grow. To level up your gameplay and mentality, visit my website, schoolofsupport.gg. The link is going to be down in the description below.